Well, we're going to tour the flower fairy garden, and I'm going to show you from the very start of making it to the finish of how it turned out. Hope you enjoy! Hi, it's Sharon from Sherry's Fairies, and it is Fairy Garden Thursday. So I thought I would do a video that shows you how I began my fairy garden this year and how it's finished up. And I thought that would make a fun video. This is a collaboration with other ladies who like to do fairy gardens, and it is a collaboration, and Grandma Sandy is our host, and she's doing all fairy gardens all June long. So that's been so much fun to watch. Thanks, Grandma Sandy. So right here I'm just raking up some twigs out of my garden. This is where I'm going to put my plants and my fairy gardens. I'm adjusting my fence just because I wanted it in a little closer, making a nicer edge on the outside. So this fence is very movable. And I got this fence from my daughter for free. She used it for a few years, and now I've used it for a few years. So it makes a perfect little fence for my fairy garden. And now we're going to start on the hard work. And for the hard work I have my son, who is a great helper to me. He has all these great muscles, and he's digging up this hard dirt that sat all winter. Last year we cleared all the grass off of this piece, and now I'm having him dig it up so I can put soil down and fertilizer, so hopefully things will grow nice. So he's dug the whole thing up and turned it over so that I can be busy and get the flowers in the ground much easier. Here I'm taking some time and I'm getting all the weeds out of there. We have lots of dandelions in our yard, and we're getting them all out. And now I'm putting the fabric landscape underneath the bench so that we don't have grass and weeds and stuff growing up under there, because I'm not going to plant flowers under there. This is a place where I make some of my fairy garden displays. So I'm getting that all in place. And here I have some perennial plants that I bought, and I'm putting them in the ground. And I have some lilies that are going to be a pinky color, and I have some blue statice that goes into a nice big bush. And there's a little thrush plant that will grow up. And of course, I have my peony plant at the back. And you'll see what I did with that in a few moments. So we're getting these in the ground. I'd like to invite you at this time to please subscribe to my channel if you like this content, and give me a thumbs up, please, and say hello so I can say hello back. I do enjoy knowing who's out there. So here I've got those plants in the ground, so just tidying up a little bit. That green bottle is a bit of fertilizer that I spread around in the dirt, because I did add new dirt in this section of the garden, and I think it looks rather pretty, nice and tidy. So Now I'm on the other side of the bench, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm adding some dirt here and some fertilizer, mixing it all together, pulling out some more dandelions and weeds and stuff, and getting the garden ready to plant on this side. Always lots to do to prepare a garden, especially when you're making a brand new flower bed. Got to get all the weeds out and all the old grass, and it just takes some time. And on this side of the bench I planted basically the same flowers, so that it will look kind of symmetrical when it's done. The only other plant that I put over here was a columbine, and it's right back at the back of the fence. There's also a small peony plant over here too, so that'll be fun to watch that grow. So now I've got these plants sorted out where I'm going to plant them, and I'm getting them in the ground. And I did not do this in a day, believe me, it took me weeks to get this all done with lots of help. And now here I've got my rocks that I'm putting underneath my bench, because this bench is going to have some fairy houses on it that I created over the years, and I keep them and have used them for several years now. I had them at our last RV place, and now I decided I'm going to put them in my own garden in Lethbridge. And just putting some boards on there so that I can set my fairy garden on there. On the bench, got the rocks all laid down. Just kind of tidying up still a little bit around the bench, and making sure that it's level so that it looks good when we get the gardens on it, or the houses. Here I'm planting a few little plants over by this other bench, and it's also going to be part of the fairy garden. That old stump there I fell in love with when we first bought this house, and I sure hope someday I'll get a roof built on there and make a fairy garden out of it. Here is one of my fairy houses that I made, and it has rocks all around it that light up in the dark. It's kind of fun, and this little fairy can go over the bridge and visit this fairy. And this little fairy has a crown on her head, so I think she's the queen of the fairies. So I call her the Mother Fairy. And this is another little house I made, and they're made from clay pots. And I put, that's the little bench that I created out of wood, and the fancy design piece is from the Dollar Tree. And you can just buy those in packages and just use your imagination. It's a lot of fun. This little fairy house has a little trellis on a walkway that you walk through when you go to visit this fairy. And I put some mushrooms. I got those mushrooms at the Dollar Tree, and they kind of make a nice tinging sound when it is windy out. And these two little fairy houses sit on bricks that I have put in the garden just to display these fairies and fairy houses. And I think it worked quite well. There's one of the peonies, and that's the smaller one. And here we have the bunny daycare. And in the bunny daycare, we have lots of little bunnies doing all kinds of things, and a little fairy who keeps an eye on them during the day. And I think they have a great time at this bunny daycare with this lovely little fairy taking care of them all. Looks to me like they're having lots and lots of fun. And beside the bunny daycare, we have a couple of houses. And these houses, there's a little walkway there that I'm pointing out. These houses have little bunnies living in them. We have two houses, and then we have a little barn at the back that has cows and chickens and pigs. That's a nice little farm for the bunnies to take care of. So this is our bunny daycare section at the back of the flower bed. Aren't they sweet? Now we're in the middle of the flower bed where I've placed my bench. It's just a white bench that's metal. And on the bench I put a fairy house, and under the bench I put a fairy house. So we're going to do a little close-up and explore what these little fairy houses are all about. The top one, I call it a love fairy house. There's a cute little couple sitting there right on the front stoop having a visit, and there's all kinds of hearts all over this house. And there's the rock that says love. And I think it's so sweet. And in this little chair is a kitty cat. So that's their little kitty cat that gets to live with them. Isn't he a sweetheart? And we made that little chair out of sticks and twine. And there's our bird bath, so the birdies can come and visit and have some water. So I think this little fairy display is pretty darn cute. And there's that nice big mushroom giving it some shade. Down below we have another fairy house. And it's kind of like a little log house. I believe it was a lantern when I started, and it had a tin roof. And so we put sticks on it to make it look like a log cabin, and added the rug out front and a nice cute white picket fence. And there's the mom and the little boy sitting in the front yard just having a visit. And they have a little bit of hay in their little woodshed behind her, and some beautiful flowers. Oh, and I found a kitty cat that kind of got lost. So we're going to bring that kitty cat out, and we're going to put it right on the front stoop. So there he is, sitting there nice and cute. And that's that fairy house. It has rocks in it, and it's very sweet. And there's my turtle I bought this year. He's pretty yellow, and I just thought he was fun to look at, and I thought he will be fun in our fairy garden, and he can give the fairies a ride. So someday I may put fairies on his back. And here's a couple more little mushrooms that clang in the wind as well. And we're at the end of the fairy flower garden, and there's our last little house sitting on some bricks, and it has a little straw roof, and there's a couple of fairies that live there, and they're sisters. And there's my peony plant, and I put chairs over the peony plant, cut holes in them, and the peony plant grows through. And I think it's going to look really pretty when those blooms open up. And here's a little bee that I have strung on my fence. And they light up at night, and they look really sweet. Well, you've seen the fairy garden in lots of detail. So now I'm just going to do a little walkthrough and show you the fairy garden as you see it when you come in through the little fence and see what's in here. I'd like to thank you all for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed it. And I'd like to welcome any new subscribers. Welcome, welcome. And send a big hug out to my regulars. A big YouTube hug from me to you. And I hope you all enjoyed this video. I sure had fun making this flower garden and fairy house garden. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you in my next video, which is Sunday Home Reset. Even though we're in our RV, we still have to clean it up and reset it every so often. So we'll see you soon. Bye.